What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. Well, I don't know what I'm laughing for. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some r/AmIThe butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too, as it truly helps out this channel, and I cannot express that enough. And just thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. Getting involved with the channel means the absolute world to me, so thank you so much, and let's just crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first story comes from Sister's Puppy. Am I the arsehole for telling my cousin, at least I know my parents wanted me, when she kept making comments about me not being family? Some backstory: I, female 17, was adopted when I was 3 months old. My cousin, 17 female, is my grandparent's only bio-grandchild, but she seems to be the only one that cares about that. She doesn't like me because I got a full scholarship to a performing arts school, and she didn't get accepted, and when my grandpa gave us his cars, I got the better one. We had a family dinner last week and my grandparents asked about my boyfriend. My grandma jokingly asked when we were getting married because she wants a great-grandchild. I laughed and said it'd be a while, and my cousin cut in and said they probably wanted a real great-grandchild anyway. I brushed it off and kept talking to my grandma. When we were about to have dessert, my grandpa realised he forgot to get ice cream and asked me to drive into town and buy some. My cousin made another comment about how she's the only real family member, so she should have gotten the good car. My grandpa told her to shut up and that I got a new car because I help them out and come to visit them almost every day, and she doesn't. After dessert, my grandpa said we should take my sister 14 to the backyard and teach her how to drive the golf cart. I agreed and told her I was driving that thing into town to run errands all the time when I was her age. My grandpa then told her maybe if she likes driving it, he'd give it to her. My cousin lost it. She started screeching that it's not fair that we get everything and we're not even their real family. That pissed me off because she said it in front of my youngest sister, 4, and made her cry, so I snapped at her and said, at least we know our family wanted us. Cousin screamed and stormed off, and my sisters got more ice cream. My grandparents think that was hilarious and I was totally in the right. My dad also thinks I'm in the right, but my mum thinks that was mean and I should apologise, so I wanted to know if I was the asshole. Now, usually I'd come into this type of situation and say, you know, there's better ways to deal with it. It was kind of mean in some sense, but some of the things cousin was saying in this were absolutely disgusting. They probably want a real great-grandchild anyway, and then complaining about the car. They clearly have resentment towards you, but I think it's more aimed towards the grandparents in this situation, and it's just being piled onto you. And I can't blame you for lashing out in this situation, so I'm definitely going with a not the arsehole in this one, because she can't continue to behave like that and get away with it. She needed to be called out because the behaviour was just unacceptable. But Coffee Beer Life says, not the arsehole. How can she continue to be disrespectful before someone snapped at her? She got what she deserved, and it wasn't like you were overly mean to her. She honestly just sounds spoiled rotten. And Warden says, not the arsehole, and good on you, OP. No one has the right to make you feel like you're not part of that family. Your grandparents and parents sound like amazing people. And Merlot Mystery says, not the arsehole, good job for defending your family. Your mum is right, it was mean. It was also justified and the appropriate response to someone who was being deliberately provocative and cruel. Your mum may be like my grandmother, a peacekeeper through and through. Peacekeepers like this can be wonderful to have in families, but they can also rug sweep for the sake of peace, which isn't okay. That said, it sounds like your cousin actually has more of a beef with your grandparents than with you. She's taking it out on you. But it sounds like she resents the strained relationship she has with them, and it hurts her to be pushed aside. She may have no one to blame but herself, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt her. And DBO Hat said, not the arsehole, the little brat had it coming. And now, I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation, and how would you deal with it? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story comes from Pizza Pepperoni. Am I the arsehole for reporting my teacher and potentially getting him fired? My 16 female school requires us to keep our cameras on during the entire class. If we need to use the restroom, we are supposed to privately message our teacher and ask to leave. I have absolutely no issue with these rules, as I understand that online teaching is hard and you have to make sure everyone is attentive during classes. We also have the system where at the end of the week, every student is emailed a Google document in which we are supposed to type out any problems we had with the classes during the week. e.g. a teacher is favouring a student, etc. On Thursday, I had a math class which was taught by Mr. T. He's never really been very strict and had always seemed quite reserved and quiet. Of course, I've never been in a lesson with him outside of an online school, so I can't really judge. During the class, I realised I started my period. I privately messaged Mr. T asking if I could use the restroom. I waited for 10 minutes but he didn't reply, so I messaged him again. Still no reply. By now, I was getting extremely uncomfortable, so I texted him for the third time explaining I'd started my period and I really had to go. He replies with this: "You should have planned better. Learn to control yourself." What? I can't control my period. I tried to explain that I couldn't, but he didn't respond. I got annoyed and switched off my camera anyways and left to the bathroom. Once I came back, I saw that he had kicked me out of the meeting. I later found out that he had written me for switching off my camera and I was giving a warning. I was pissed. Since it was Thursday, I received a Google Doc and I complained about Mr. T in it. Today, Tuesday, I found out through my mother, who is also a teacher, that Mr. T is being investigated as there have been multiple complaints about his behaviour and mine was apparently the last straw. My dad, brother and a few other of my friends are calling me an arsehole as I could have just waited for a while instead of complaining and potentially making a man lose his job, especially during this time. I don't know, I'm feeling really guilty now. I don't want him to lose his job. Am I the arsehole? Oh god, where'd you start with this one? When a teacher's basically saying, just hold it in. Easy peasy, right? Oh my word. There isn't much you could say. You're definitely not the arsehole in this at all. And obviously it was previous complaints at all. The guy clearly needs a biology lesson, as well as your dad and brother at the same time. Get them all in that class. 100% not the arsehole in this situation, but Levitating Loser says your dad, brother and his friends, who I'm assuming are also male, are the arseholes. I'm so fucking tired of men thinking we can just hold in our period blood the way you can with your bladder. This is a grown-ass man teaching a class of kids that are probably half female. He should know the bare basics about menstruation and how to address it if a female student is having an issue. You are not the arsehole. If this was a long time coming and you were just the final straw, he should be fired. Anita says you didn't make him lose his job. If it happens, he did it to himself. Definitely not the arsehole. And Trainia says, I remember the one time I unexpectedly got my period during a lunch break, and I went to the male teacher I had after lunch to explain what had happened and asked if I could get home to get clean underwear and pads, and arrived late in class, probably about 10 minutes late. We had a test that day, so I was really worried. Poor man went beet red, but he told me to go home and not to worry about the test. I could stay after class to finish the test if I hadn't enough time after my return. Even though he's uncomfortable, he didn't say anything to make me feel bad, but he supported me, enabled me to take care of things, and made sure I could take my test. At the time, I was happy and relieved, but stories like this make me realise how lucky I actually was. And Anabolic Beard says, all the men telling you about what your period is like and how you should handle it appropriately, since they know from personal experience. /sarcasm. It's so irritating how men just want to blame women for everything. The teacher is in trouble for his behaviour, not because you did anything. Not the arsehole. Teacher, dad and bro sure are. And now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of this situation? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story is from a throwaway account. Am I the arsehole for asking my wife to buy the same dress our neighbour's wife was wearing? Oh god. Throwaway for privacy. Me, male 37, and my wife, female 31, moved into our neighbourhood 4 years ago. Everyone around here is very kind and friendly. Obviously, we've established a close relationship with most neighbours. We'd attend events together, visit each other's, and stay in touch. Every Friday night we'd get together for dinner. Me and my wife regularly attend and do some activities like board games, etc. We recently had a new family move into the neighbourhood. It's a young family of 3. They are very polite and friendly. I heard from the other neighbours that the new neighbours will start attending our events. My wife and I just hosted last Friday's get together. The new neighbours showed up, so did the rest. Anyways, after dinner I complimented my new neighbour's wife's dress. I looked at my wife and told her that I really liked it and she should get a similar one since it looked great. My wife gave me a look and everyone stared at me for a minute. I honestly had no idea who was hurt by what I said and whether it was wrong or not. My wife kept quiet till everyone left. She then blew up. I asked her why and she responded by asking if I'm really that dense or pretending to be. She argued with me about my inappropriate comment on my neighbour's wife's dress and how embarrassed she was by telling her to get a similar one since I liked it. I told her she was overreacting, but she kept saying what I said was awful and made her feel awful besides making the lady feel uncomfortable. I called her unreasonable, then went upstairs. She's been giving the cold shoulder ever since, despite saying sorry if I said anything that hurt her. Now let's just start off with like the last line there. That wasn't an apology at all, was it? That was like, yeah, if your feelings are hurt, then I am sorry, but you know, this is more you than me. That's what it comes across, that last apology there. That's how I look at it anyway. But in my opinion, you cross some serious boundaries there. New neighbor comes round and you're looking at her and you're like, that dress looks good. Then turn to your wife and go, you should get that dress too. It'll look good on you as well. You might look as good as this woman right here. But you don't right now. But yes, definitely the arsehole to me in this situation. But OGJZ says, you're the arsehole. Is this a real question or are you just looking for people to validate your arsholishness? You implied that you found another woman more attractive than your wife to her face in front of your wife and others. That's why everyone stared at you for a minute. And Overall Disaster says, you're the arsehole because this is really kind of weird to say in front of the neighbor, especially. You could have said it privately to your wife later, but regardless, it kind of comes across that you were admiring this lady. And Charming Pudding says, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here because I live with someone who is barely on the autism spectrum and misses social cues. Maybe you do too and haven't recognized it or something. I will explain this to you like I would to them. You need to understand that there's no way people can separate you looking at the neighbor's dress from you looking at the neighbor's body inside the dress. When you openly admired it and told your wife openly that you thought she looked good in it, it gave everyone the creepy feeling that you want your wife to pretend to be the neighbor. You have icked out everyone and hurt your wife, and you owe her an apology for that. You can try explaining that you think she is beautiful and therefore you like to see her in the pretty things, and you also just think she deserves to have nice things like that pretty dress too. But you have to accept and admit that you openly compared your wife to their neighbor in terms of beauty, and it's never okay to do that. You shouldn't be openly assessing your neighbor's looks at all, ever. Keep that to yourself. She is right to be mad, and you need to learn from this. Hopefully you can both move on. And I also think it's a good chance to tell your wife how much more beautiful she is to you than anyone else. That you see something nice and immediately think of her, and that you are lucky to be with someone so amazing and beautiful. And ask what you can do to make her feel better and really listen to what she says. Good luck moving past this because you're the arsehole here. And now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of this situation? Did OP cross boundaries or not? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And our next story is from MCST Throwaway. It's going to be a tricky one. I've got Poppy on my lap at the minute. Am I the arsehole for wanting my husband to meal prep before his trip? My husband is going away on a week-long trip. It will be his first time away for the kids since they were born, and thus my first time operating by myself with the kids for a full week. On top of working, I will have to take over his half of the chores and keep the house together for the week. Cooking is normally my husband's responsibility. I can do it, but my kids are picky and my husband knows their preferences better than I do because he's cooked more. Thus, I asked him to prep dinners for the week and he will be gone to make it easier on me. He got really upset and told me that's too much work to ask of him, and if it gets too hard, I can just make them sandwiches. I just don't want to deal with the meltdowns that will probably come with not having the food that our kids are used to. I don't think it's unfair to ask him to do this since he's going to be taking a full week away. Am I the arsehole? I think you're going to be ever so slightly the arsehole in this situation, simply because if you think everything's going to be too much for you, you just prioritize. You just let some things slide for the week and prioritize, on keeping your kids alive. Just feed them the food that they want. It's not that difficult. If you're worried about what they want to be fed, just ask your husband to make a list of what meals he usually cooks them. It can't be that hard, surely. But Lady Parissa says, you're the arsehole, your husband is right. What you're asking is a lot of work before he heads out. Stock up on stuff you know they will like. Ask your small, assuming they are small, because if they are teens this isn't normal, kids what they want and serve that. If your kids have a meltdown, send them to their room during the meltdown and ask them later what they want when they've calmed down. If they get hungry enough, they will eat. After about day 2, they will know the drill. And one Mike Nation says, you're the arsehole. There's a simple solution. You can either A, ask your husband what does he recommend you cook since he knows the children's preferences, or B, ask the kids what they would like to eat. You're just attempting to take the easy way out so you won't have to do the work. The idea that you can't because you don't know your kids' preferences is a weak excuse. And there for the comment says, info, is this a work trip or leisure? How old are your kids? Do you eat together as a family, as in, do you know what your husband makes for dinner? Edit, I'm leaning towards you're the arsehole. You presumably eat dinner with the kids, so you know what your husband makes for the family. Just make those meals so you know they are safe for your picky kids. And yeah, make some sandwiches. You can absolutely figure out how to feed your kids for a week. Just Obsolete says, you're the arsehole. You're an adult. It's a week. Handle it. And No Elephant says, you're the arsehole, but gently. Look, if your husband had an accident and ended up in hospital for 3 months, you'd have no choice except to crack on with it. Years ago, I had a spinal injury and it meant I was really restricted on what I could do for months afterwards, and we planned for that. Partner took a week off while I was in hospital, and a friend did the school run for us when he went back to work. We had a plan. We didn't plan for him nearly dying a few weeks later, or him needing major surgery on an 8-day stay in hospital. I was just driving again and had a 2-hour round trip twice a day for visiting. I still had the school run in the mornings and a home to run, but I was barely walking and couldn't do any housework. When he came home, I had to do his personal care. It was a really rough time, and to put it into context, our Christmas decorations were still downstairs in May because neither of us was fit enough to get them moved. But we managed and eventually managed to clean the entire house properly and caught up with lots of stuff. You're talking about 1 week. Get your husband to write the recipes down and make them yourself. Now, what do you guys think of this situation? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story comes from Alrighty Aphrodite. Am I the arsehole for bringing my girlfriend to son's wedding even though she wasn't invited? Oh dear. My 53 male son, Aiden 24 male, had a small wedding last Saturday. Measures in our country are loose. Aiden's mum and I got divorced 10 years ago when she cheated on me. She had 2 marriages, 2 divorces, and managed to get knocked up by a dentist. I was single most of that time till I started dating Callie, 25 female, last year. We clicked and have been living together lately. She was actually my student, but we only started dating after she finished college. So, here's the issue. My son announced the wedding 2 months ago. We knew that he was getting married for a year, but we were waiting for COVID to pass. Callie was very excited and we were stuck in the house all this time. We went shopping, I bought her a lovely dress and shoes. Invitations arrived 2 weeks before the wedding and I don't get a +1. I call my son and he says that no one has it because of COVID. I was a bit irritated, but okay. The day of the wedding, I arrived there and everyone has a +1. I'm at the table with my ex-wife and her no-name new boyfriend. I ask around and it turns out my son lied to me. I excuse myself and call Callie, telling her to get ready and come anyway. She arrives and sits with us. Everything is in fact great. My ex and Callie got together well. I actually also met my ex at the college. My son then pulls me aside and shouts and whispers, "What the hell is Callie doing here?" I say I know he lied about the +1s, so I invited her anyway. She already bought a dress, etc. Then he says that his wife is jealous of Callie and didn't want her upstaging the bride, and now she's here and looks amazing. He asked me to make Callie leave, but I refused because it's mean to have her leave alone. I say that if he cares so much, then I, his father, will leave with her and miss the rest of the wedding. He agrees and we leave. We went to the bar next to the restaurant where the wedding was held. 30 minutes later, my ex and her boyfriend join us. In the next few hours, like 8 more people joined. We didn't invite anyone, seemed like everyone's first idea was to go to the nearest bar. Turns out the bride was so insecure that she made all the younger women invited dress uglier than her and forbade certain hairstyles. The hell? When Callie arrived, the bride started drinking heavily, and there were some scenes in the hours after we left, which is why some people also left. Anyway, my son called me on Monday and accused me of ruining his wedding because I had to have my skank, it was actually a worse term, over. Says that his new wife went to her mother's because she's angry. I say that the emotion she should feel is embarrassment. He calls me a fucking hippie and hangs up. Very uncalled for. I'm still getting calls from what seems like every family member, including son's wife's side, calling me out for what I did. I don't know what to think, so I figured I'll post here. And we'll start out straight away with World's Worst Warlock saying, dude, come on, you're 50, please act like an adult. You should know better by now that you don't invite people to a wedding who weren't invited. It's not your day, it's not Callie's day, it's your son's and your daughter-in-law's day. Don't be selfish. Their bad behaviour could have demonstrated itself for snubbing Callie, but instead you had to throw a big stink and invite someone who wasn't invited and instead showcase your bad behaviour. I would have said everybody sucks because your son's reaction was uncalled for, but you literally started it. You're the arsehole. Seriously, inviting a girlfriend to a family event who wasn't invited is a move I'd expect out of an irate teenager, not a grown man. And Baskov says, you're the arsehole, your girlfriend wasn't invited for a reason. And while I may not agree it's your son and daughter-in-law's wedding and ultimately their choice, extra yikes for the points your girlfriend being the same age as your son and former student. And Stretchy Pants says, ew, you're the arsehole times 1000. You went against your son's wishes because you were selfish and gross, and you're dating someone only 1 year older than your son. No wonder he didn't want her there. Can you walk in his shoes for a second and try to understand how uncomfortable it is for him to have a father who is dating someone his age? You're selfish and inappropriate. Don't be surprised if your son cuts you out of his life for good. And Random Overthinker says, you're the arsehole, your son literally told you not to bring your girlfriend to his wedding, but you did anyway out of spite. Spite for your ex-wife and her new boyfriend. Is it nice you were the only one without a +1? Of course not, but this was something you had to discuss in private and later, not during his wedding day with your girlfriend there as a surprise. Does your girlfriend even have a relationship with your son and his wife? Because as well as it could be perfectly understandable, they don't want a virtual strangers at a very small family wedding. In any case, it's not your decision to make wedding guest lists. Sit down and talk to your son like the two whole adults you both are. And now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of this situation and how would you have dealt with it? Let me know in the comments below. Now, once again, guys, thank you for being here today. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. Your time is so important, and you spending 20 minutes or so listening to a video is absolutely crazy level support. And I've got nothing but love for you because of it. Thank you so much. And if you want to support the channel further, you absolutely can by clicking that join button down below for YouTube or clicking the link in the description for Patreon and joining up there. Love to have you, and thank you so much. And I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love. Goodbye. I got food up in the fridge. Y'all keep looking for that new wave. I think I like it how it is.